यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਐਂਡ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਪਰੰਪਰਾ ਹੈਗੀ ਕਿ ਆਰਮਡ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਰਿਸਪੈਕਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਯਾਦ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਅਗਲੇ ਵੀਕਐਂਡ ਮੈਮੋਰੀਅਲ ਡੇ ਆਉਣ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਦਿਨ ਜਾਂ ਪੂਰਾ ਮਹੀਨਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਨਾਉਂਦੇ ਉਹ ਹੈ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ। ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਨੂੰ ਥਾਂ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਨਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਗਰ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਪਰੇਡਸ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ, ਇਲੈਕਟਡ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲਸ ਐਂਡ ਸਟੇਟ ਹਾਊਸਿਸ ਜਾਂ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਹਿੱਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਰਦਾਸਾਂ ਕਰਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਰੈਕਗਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏ। ਸੋ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਾਣ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਇਨੀਸ਼ੀਏਟਿਵ ਇਹ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਦੀ ਰੈਕਗਨੀਸ਼ਨ ਐਂਡ ਸੈਲੀਬ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੀ ਆਰਮਡ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜ ਰਿਹਾ। ਇਨ ਫੈਕਟ ਇਸ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਵੀਕਐਂਡ ਵਾਸ਼ਿੰਗਟਨ DC ਤੋਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਬਾਹਰ ਪੈਂਟਾਗਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਮਨਾਈ ਗਈ। ਐਂਡ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਕਸਰ ਜੁੜਦੇ ਹਨ ਲੈਫਟੀਨੈਂਟ ਕਰਨਲ ਕਮਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਕਲਸੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਐਫਰਟ ਨੂੰ ਲੀਡ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਲ ਕੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਾਂਗੇ ਐਂਡ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਦੀ ਸੈਲੀਬ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਪੈਂਟਾਗਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਝ ਨਜ਼ਰੀਏ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੁਣ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ। ਆਓ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪੈਂਟਾਗਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ।
I'm Gurpreet Bhatia. I'm the Principal Director for Cybersecurity for the Department of Defense, which in layman's terms mean I'm the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for the entire Department of Defense. And my boss reminds me of that often. So I think it's such an honor that our community members are being represented at that level within departments and cabinets and across the federal government. We've seen it historically in private industry, but we're now starting to see it and find ourselves at the table as a decision maker. So really thankful for the opportunity to actually be at the table, but then also have the opportunity to host these kind of events to bring us together. To this Vaisakhi celebration, which we have not had in the Pentagon in a long time. So I want to welcome you all to it. So Vaisakhi is something that is celebrated throughout India, in many parts of India, primarily out of Punjab. It's got very special historical, cultural, and religious significance. And that is really important that we celebrate this as a community, as a culture, as a nation, and celebrate it globally. It really signifies prosperity at the end of the day. It marks many New Years, so the Hindu solar year, it marks the Sikh New Year. And again, as I mentioned, it also marks the creation of the force to defend everybody. So that's an important theme that we carry around with us, is that defense of all and equality for all. So celebration of Vaisakhi is really about resiliency, unity, and spirit of community.
In April of 2021, when I was appointed at the command of the President, I was charged with making sure that the richness and diversity of the Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities are not made invisible. This position was created so that the President had a representative in the AAN and HPI communities, but I also serve as the community's representative back to the President when we make policy and when he decides what his priorities are. And so it's been since day one that President Biden and Vice President Harris have demonstrated their commitments to empowering and uplifting our communities. And the President has made good on his promise to create an administration that looks like America, while also enacting policies to advance equity, opportunity, and justice for all communities, including Asian Americans and Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders. We have so much to celebrate and honor. We are a part of the most diverse administration in history. We have 4 Asian Americans serving in President Biden's cabinet. I pause for a moment so that I can emphasize this because I will never get tired of saying it. Every single one of them is a woman. I hope that by seeing the diversity of leadership in our government, including those from the AAN and HPI communities and beyond, that people see themselves and see what is possible. So I thank you all for sharing this sacred space with me, and I wish you all a very happy and prosperous Vaisakhi, and thank you for your service. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of all of us here, from the chaplain to all the attendees, wanted to have the chaplain present you with the chaplain's coin.
And we are so honored to have
For the Joint Staff J6, I'm also just a deputy. They're just more fancy words, right? So also a big thank you to everybody who put this together. I know it takes a lot of work to pull together an event like this. And I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words to this incredible turnout. Gurpreet asked me to share my thoughts and my personal experience with diversity and inclusion. And what I'd like to do today is define what those terms mean to me in my words. But in order to do that, first I need to share a little bit about myself. So in no particular order, I am Korean and Irish American. For the record, I make my own kimchi, and I don't measure out any of the ingredients. That's classic Korean mom style, right? So it's this much garlic, right, that much fish sauce. So I don't have a recipe to share, unfortunately. I'm also an Army brat. I grew up all over the world. I lived in 10 different places in 2 different countries, 10 different places stateside in 2 different countries by the time I graduated from high school. Values in my behavior and as a leader at the Department of Defense. Because I had to go on this journey internally and accept the many diverse pieces of myself before I could truly do the same for another person. And so my definition of diversity and inclusion is really summarized in 3 words: curiosity, awareness, and respect. Because ultimately, I believe that every person is a perspective. And one of the most remarkable things that we can do for another person is to see, to hear, and to accept them as they are. And that's really the whole reason why we're here today, is to learn more about each other and to celebrate each other. So in closing, I just want to reiterate how grateful that I am to be here. Thank you. Curious, aware, respectful, and also a little bit hungry. So I'm pretty excited for what awaits us on the backside. And just as a final note on curiosity, I learned today that Vaisakhi and I share the same birthday. I am not as old as Vaisakhi, right? I do not date back to 1699, but I will never again celebrate a birthday without wishing everybody a happy Vaisakhi. So happy Vaisakhi. Thank you.
We have Gagandeep Singh and Rajvinder Singh, who are going to do a beautiful performance. Our next speaker is our very own Dr. Galsi. Again, I think we all know his dedicated not just to the department, to service, but also to the family and to making sure that we have a community that thrives. So really, really a great exemplar for our community, and just a tireless advocate across the board, right? For freedom, for civil rights, for justice, and making sure that we're, again, to the point earlier, that we have a voice. So I have the distinct pleasure of bringing him up for just saying a few remarks for our event today.
I'd like everybody to take a second and stand up for me. You know, it's been a nice hour. And take a step to your left. All right. A step to your right. All right. Now you guys can sit down. The chaplain's office wanted me to share a few remarks that would move the audience. I'm also good at dad jokes. All right. Now, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be here today in the Pentagon again after 4 years. And it's really because of Gurpreet's advocacy and persistence within the building that allowed us to finally celebrate Vaisakhi again here in the building. So I wanted to just have you all honor and applaud Gurpreet and his efforts. And the chaplain's office too. We could not have done this without the help of the chaplain's office. So you know, Vaisakhi is such a special day, not just for Sikhs, but for South Asians. It has been for hundreds of years. It's the harvest festival, and it's the time when we come together and celebrate abundance as a community, you know, culturally. And it's also the new year for Sikhs, and it's the birth of our faith, the birth of the Khalsa. And what does it mean to be a Khalsa? What does it mean to be Sikh? What does it mean to don this identity, you know, this uniform? When we first started out on this this fight for Sikhs to join in the army, you know, I was still finishing up my residency. I didn't know that this would turn into all this. I could not have imagined that 15 years later, we'd be here in the Pentagon celebrating Vaisakhi with hundreds of Sikhs now serving with their case and religious articles of faith. Not just that, but we opened the door for Muslims, for Jews, and other religious minorities that couldn't serve. So I'm very proud of that. That the community did that. You guys did that. I didn't do it. It was meant to happen. So it's important that we as a community not just learn to stand up for ourselves, but as our gurus intended, that we fight for others. We, as we were going through, I will keep my remarks short. I know we're over time, but as we were going through these policy battles, a young captain in the Air Force reached out to us, Captain Usa, and she's a proud hijabi Muslim in the Air Force that wanted to use our example in the Army so that she could then wear her religious article of faith in the Air Force. It was not easy, but she finally won and fought for her religious accommodation to wear her hijab in the Air Force. And once she wore, she got the accommodation, she reached back out and said, she said, Virji, you know, brother, I love your cool camo turban. How do I get one of those for that material so I could, you know, have a camo hijab? And I said, sister, I don't have any more material, but I have an extra turban. And so I gave her one of my camo de stars, and I think she made like 2 or 3 hijabs out of it. It was awesome. So the first hijab, camo hijab in the Air Force actually came from a Sikh turban. And that makes me so proud. So, and that to me is inclusivity. You know, one hand washes the other. As we helped her get in, we then used her example to get our Sikhs, the first Sikhs, into the Air Force with the star and articles of faith. So, you know, this is it's a circle, and as Virji said, we're in this together. We're in this fight together, and I'm so proud to be here. We're gonna make this event even bigger and better next year, maybe with Diljit, and but we really appreciate and thank all of you for coming out and spending the day with us. Thank you.
How beautiful was that? And once again, मैं enough नहीं कह सकती कि की अहमियत हैगी ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ celebrations ਦੀ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ initiatives ਦੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅਕਸਰ ਕਦੀ ਕਵਾਰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਐਫਰਟ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਕੀ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਥਾਵਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਸਟੇਟ ਹਾਊਸ ਹੋਏ ਕਿਸੇ ਇਲੈਕਟਿਡ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਦਾ ਆਫਿਸ ਹੋਏ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਹਿੱਲ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਹੋਵੇ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਇਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖ ਰੈਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਹਾਜ਼ਰੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਸਪੈਕਟਡ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਐਂਡ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਇਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪੈਂਟਾਗਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਨੂੰ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੋ ਸਾਰੇ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਲੈਫਟੀਨੈਂਟ ਕਮਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਕਲਸੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ ਸਿੱਖ ਜੋ ਸੰਗਤ ਹੈਗੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਰੀਟੇਜ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਉਹ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ there could be nothing better